what we're going to do is we're going to pour it through the net. So we're going to pick it up, slowly let it de-water. Right? We'll see what kind of crap you guys got. Now there was a darter in here. All right, cool. Oh my! Oh, look at that! There's floppy fish. All right.
I swear my kids said the same thing when they were 9 playing in the street.
So I'm going to put these in here. So when we've done the work on here, a normal stream like this, so this has about 10 square miles of drainage. So it's what we call a headwater stream. It's small. So your expectations are you're not going to find a 40-pound northern pike in here. So our expectations are geared towards the size of the stream. And what we would do is this technique, starting June 15th, ending October 15th, we do about 200 meters. So in this purple bucket is about 120 meters of cable. So we would walk down 100 meters and then walk up 100 meters, and that's what we call fish zone. And every fish that's in there we collect, and then at the end of our zone we do what we call processing, which would be dumping our bucket out, and this is all kinds of fish in here, and we would take them and sort them and then tabulate them. So there are forms. What's that? And we would end up, like, remember we talked about that last week, it's that grade point average. So how many darters we have, how many minnows we have, how many of what we call intolerance. You get all those different classes and you put them together. So you can come closer and look at these things. So what we found here is, so remember, back in February, there was a complete fish kill. So from that bridge, basically, all the way down to Bull Creek, we're assuming every fish that lived here was probably killed. What that means is upstream, there were fish that were not killed. They moved down, and downstream in Bull Creek, the fish were not killed, and they started moving up. And so what we've seen is actually in Negley and above here, it's all meeting. Actually, the Negley score was higher than we got last year. So that tells us that the biodiversity in the fish community is already returned. Which, when we were talking about this is a spill. It went over the fish, and it was done. It's not a long-term thing. It was a moment in time. It did wipe out the stream here, but everything's come back. So we see, and if we did this for the whole thing, we'd probably get a few more different kinds of fish. Up here, we didn't go into this riffle area. That's where we'd find the darters. But we have, what's this? One little baby largemouth bass. So smallmouth bass are generally associated with little bigger streams, and they like boulders and rocks and things like that. Largemouth can be in all kinds of things, and they're between, oh, it's going to rain now, that's wonderful. They can handle more of the, what we call pollution tolerance than a smallmouth. This one is a white sucker, so if anyone wants to see these, you can pass these around.
Are they more susceptible than amphibians, like frogs, to chemicals like this?
No, they're all, each one is unique that way. So you see a lot of amphibians, because they have the same thing, it's a very thin skin. Yeah. There are certain differences that affect them. So some hormones, well, you get that, or that fungus, that chytrid fungus that was going around causing all these things. So yeah, each chemical is specific because they're a different class of vertebrate.
Yeah, I'm not familiar. Did we see an amphibian kill-off also with this? Or just the fish?
We only were documenting the fish. They did look downstream at the hellbenders, and they found living hellbenders. That was but that's so far down in Little Beaver, it was really, anything coming there would have been already diluted by multiple streams and groundwater. Okay. So, the other thing we got here was a bluegill. So in small streams like this, you'll get a couple of different kinds of panfish. You'll get bluegill, green sunfish, pumpkin seed sunfish. Down south, you get the red ear sunfish starting to come in. So And then let's see here. So, and here's another cool one. So this one, it's called a free. Oh, where's my son? Oh, there it is. We thank you for your service. Another fish. This one is called a striped shiner. So the cool thing about this is it's one of those fish that does not like pollution. It's more what we call intolerant. So when you look at you, so they're going to be found statewide in the streams that are cleaner. So when you start having heavy impacts from silt, from pollutants, these are the first fish that go away. So you'll see things starting going away based on what's going on in the stream. So that one is called a striped shiner. So there's two kinds that look just very similar. One's called a common shiner, and they're found more northern in like the Lake Erie drainage. And this is the striped shiner. And then when they get mixed together, it makes it even more confusing because you got to look at their heads and the scale patterns on their heads and tell them apart. You're looking at a big one. So some of them will get maybe a half inch, an inch longer, but that's a.
I don't. No.
Yeah.
It looks like bait to me.
Oh no. That's no. In Ohio, that is a pollution intolerant fish that we like to see in the stream. It's an indicator. So you know the fish eggs are tiny. The babies and the larval will be millimeters, like 10 millimeters long, and then after their first year, they'll probably get about 20 to 30, and then they over. So that being said, so these things fast. I'm gonna cheat.
Yeah, like you said, they're very,
So
very
that's an
sensitive to
important
environmental
thing is
stressors.
when you're looking at fish communities, it's just like tropical
What kind
fish.
is that?
This is the white
Shiner,
sucker that was
striped
passed
shiner.
around. These are babies. So that means they were in this stream as juveniles, and then they're here. So this is something that would have probably been spawned this year and moved up or down, wherever. The big adults will get, you know, you'll see an adult in Lake Erie about 2 feet long. Yeah, so you get those, and then the other one is the hog sucker, which is the kind of striped one that's really cool. We didn't see any of those, but the other stuff I saw is if I want to. Thank you for your service. I saw another cool one here. So imagine in a small stream, so the streams that are like this size, some of them will have the most. I've had streams, I've had thousands of fish at a site like this, and you got to count and identify every single one. And then we tabulate it, and then that's when these scores come out. So this way of doing stuff is still quicker than identifying the bugs. So that's why when we were talking about the fish scores, we got those back pretty quickly because the field IDs are the identifications. Every one species they got at every site, they took a photo voucher of each species. And then as they were down in the North Fork, which is the furthest, they got a couple of actual state listed endangered species things. So some of the darters. So that's cool. But these are not fish. Did you lose the darter? Okay, it is. Cool. So this is called a Johnny darter. So darters are fish, don't have a swim bladder, so they hang out and bounce on the ground. They are equivalent in the States to some tropical fish. So a breeding male rainbow darter is brilliant red, brilliant blue, and they are absolutely gorgeous. The other thing you get down south here is something called the banded darter, that the breeding males get emerald green, and they're gorgeous. And then there's, because you're in the Little Beaver Creek, you have a really beautiful one called the variegate darter. It's got those horns and it gets a little bigger. So They're all really good indicators.
None of those have swim bladders?
No. Poor things. No, it's different. But the thing is, so these fish are found in these riffle areas because they can not have a lot of water over them. You don't find darters when you start getting deeper water, or if folks put a dam in a creek, these darters are gone because even though they like water, they don't like water. So if you put a bunch of water on top of a fish's head, you would think it wouldn't matter. But if you're a darter, it eliminates the habitat. So a Johnny darter in the whole group of darters is the one that can live the more places than others. But it's still really cool to find those here. So the first ones you start seeing are Johnny darters. Had we gone and putzed around in the riffle up here, we might have got 1 or 2 more different species up here. The diversity, again, small creek, it's still recovering. Even though it hit our score, it met our scores, this stream still needs some time to heal because it was kicked. So next year when we come back again, we expect, I mean, if it hit that score this year, give it a little more time, it's going to be even cooler. We'll be able to do this site next year because I think I mentioned because of the bridge, we wanted, it was just good. You can see all this silt here. This is all coming from that bridge project and some of the side bank erosion that's going on here. So we really want to make the stream give us its best shot, which with everything going on upstream from the bridge wouldn't. Oh, yes, getting one. And so let's see. We're gonna look and see if we get another white sucker. The other thing I saw is I saw some creek chubs and a lot of baby. Oh, there's the Imagine doing this all summer, so that we hire in. So our fish crews, we have 5 fish crews that go out and do all this all summer long, and each of those crews has 2 interns. And can you imagine this? Because they got to carry all these generators up and down hills. They can do 4 or 5 sites a day. So
5
they start
for the whole state of Ohio?
5 fish crews. So the way we work is we rotate through basins. So each fish crew can do about 100 sites. So that gives us about a 500 site capacity. So we do specific basins. So last year was the Little Beaver Basin. We did about 100 sites in the Little Beaver Creek. Next year, we'll move on to another basin. And we rotate, so we do 5 of those chunks around the state every year. And then when we're done, we'll start over again. Because what it does is it lets us know what's going on in the stream, just like here. It gives us reference sites. So because the Little Beaver Creek itself is so high quality, and North Fork and Bull Creek, a lot of those are reference sites. We just track them to make sure everything's peachy keen. Another common shiner. Red striped shiner. Aha.
So when was the last time this site was done before the drill?
Last year.
So you have a baseline
Oh yeah.
of what it looked like before.
Yes.
And you're saying we're back at that level now?
I'm saying, so we didn't do this site because of the bridge.
Okay.
Down in Negley, it's better than it was last year.
How does that information get out to the public?
What'll happen is our bug folks, because the bugs, well, we have some bugs here, that take the longer time to ID. They're going to finish up the bugs, then we write a report. And so there'll be a big boring report called the technical support document that will be posted on our website.
When does that happen?
Well, ideally they'll work on it this winter, because what you collect it, then you immediately go into planning for your next sampling season, then you write your report. So they should be writing a report this winter season.
One of the things we've been doing with this perception,
Uh-huh.
and it's hurting our businesses badly, and we keep seeing reports telling us parts per million and things that no one can relate to.
Sure.
But a report that said we have more fish today than we had before the derailment would mean something if we could get it to the public.
So there's a stream fact sheet out right now. It's on Ohio EPA's website. So if you go onto the east,
So, Ohio EPA's East Policy website, it's just on the right side of the page, you'll see the fact sheet.
there's a stream fact sheet, and it just talks about sulfur and Leslie, and it does say that. We talk about the scores, and we say they're, showing that things are recovered.
Okay.
So there is a fact sheet out there, but like the same for this year. They did this stuff, so I know the fish community has come back. I can't tell you for sure. The bugs are, when we can talk some about the bugs, but yeah, we're seeing that, and there's, again, the standard response to a spill is down, the stream takes a hit, and then it recovers, and that's exactly what we're seeing. Well, so sulfur run is a different thing, because in our world of water quality standards, that does not have any biologic expectations because of all the impacts of culverting it and the armoring of the sides. So like we were talking about, this stream can still process water and provide homes for fish, so it has the expectation of a normal stream in the state of Ohio. Sulfur is different because it's been so altered. I mean, even here, if you look from here to where it crosses under the road, most streams aren't like this straight. So this was all dredged. Now luckily, because you have good space upstream and downstream, this is not, when we were going up through here, we definitely got less fish, and we would have continued to get less fish because that habitat gets altered. So you go in a sulfur run, it's the same thing. Now there are fish in sulfur run. And then they did this season, they did some sampling. We don't, because we have no criteria that apply to fish. But we'll have some numbers, and once that report comes in, that the company that did all this biologic work has to submit a report to us that says all the findings of what they did. And that'll come in sometime, probably March, April, hopefully, because again, the bug data they're working on. And then the other cool things they did is they did fish tissue, so the chemistry of the tissue in both the fish, and they did macroinvertebrates, so everywhere they got crayfish, they crayfish didn't really probably want to be sacrificed, but they got ground up, and they're getting tested for tissue too. So we're going to have this incredibly rich data set that's going to be all the way from sulfur down to North Fork. And that'll tell us that
there was a baseline of sulfur that was done.
there was chemistry, but we don't look at sulfur. So everything we have is going to say sulfur post. We have historic information from, let's see, our mid 80s and 99 surveys. We have some information, but that all confirmed that the way we look at normal streams, sulfur run is altered. So it just has some basic chemical expectations because of that habitat challenge. So, yeah.
That assessment baseline that we did last year is part of is that on the higher EPA site?
No, that's what we were just talking about. Hopefully that report will come out this winter and get put up. I thought you meant the report of this. No, the report that was done this year will probably get done about the same time as ours. Okay. Because it's the chemistry, well, for us it's the bugs that are coming in. Because it's easy to do the fish work, because right now, we can take a look at all these fish and know what they are. Well, I do. This is a small fish. This is another one of those striped shinies. So this would all get entered into our scores, and the score gets kicked out. And then we just take that score and look at where it compares to the standard, because we still have two things going on, right? We have a standard and then a recovery. So we want to make sure it's kind of where it was, but the cool thing about Leslie Run is it was performing above its expectations, because those things that had gone on in years past, wastewater plant, Rochelle, and all those other places upstream, they were no longer impacting, because in the 80s, this stream was pretty much devoid of life. So, and that was all because of the way we were impacting the watershed. But
now, when the water level goes up and down, are the fish smart enough to move? Because I was down here the other day, and this was pretty much dry. There was nothing.
Yeah,
rugged.
they'll move.
Okay.
Yeah, and then what we've seen is here, this is a small stream, so typically they get pushed downstream and they'll hide.
Yeah.
Or to like here,
Yeah.
where it turns here, this is a
They're
pool.
real deep, yeah.
They'll just go hide out
Okay.
there. And they can, fish have on their sides that lateral line, which are scales, and that's like their tactile, and they can tell flows. So as soon as they sense a temperature change or the conductivity of water, it tells them, hey, it's starting to rain. They'll go hide. And
Okay.
we've seen fish in the bigger streams, when the water comes up, they go into the floodplain. So I've gone and shocked floodplains, and all the same fish in the stream are in what was once woods. They'll just hide out there until the energy dies down, because that's why we like floodplains, right? Chills out the stream, and then they'll come back. So they move.
Okay.
And that's why right now we're also not seeing as many fish as we would have, because the temperature's changing and they're like, oh snap, got to go south for the winter or I'm going to freeze into a fish cube.
Yeah.
And so they don't want to hang out here.
Okay.
So yeah, they survived for millions of years for reasons.
Well, I figured that, yeah, 'cause I was down here and there was a couple like good puddles, but there was no. Usually I see fish in there,
Oh, yeah.
and there was none. So I figured they moved downstream, but yeah.
Well, and again, that's our season of fish sampling is designed to maximize our effort, because we want to get it when they're here, especially in these little streams where they
Yeah.
start moving.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, sure. So, I'm trying to see, we had a couple of other cool fish that were cool to me, but probably not cool to you. I saw a stone roller minnow, which is the algae eater equivalent of a stream fish. It's kind of cool. It's got a flat head, and its bottom jaw has, if anyone has ever had a plecostomus and watched a plecostomus kind of go up a stream, it can scrape algae the same way. So these are your fish in Leslie Run. So if we were going to rate this stream based on my interns, they could have done better, but it's going to be right on that edge of the warm water habitat. But we also didn't do a complete sump. You know, we just putzed around here for. Normally, a site like this would take us 45 minutes to an hour. If we have slow interns, it takes an hour. And if we're moving through with an experienced crew, once we get used to each other, we can move through in about 45 minutes. And then, depending on how many fish you get, another hour to identify and do all the paperwork. And then I run away and make them all the crap.
Seniority.
Wisdom. So,
Man down, man down.
uh-oh. Someone jump. You can do this. Save it. Save me. Free Willy. No fish were harmed in the making of this. So anyway, any questions on the fish thing? It's typically the coolest thing we do. Most people really like it because the chemistry stuff is pretty boring, right? You put junk in a jar, you send it away, and you get a piece of, well, we don't even get paper. We get an electronic, hey, your data's done. This you can actually see, but remember, those multiple indicators are what really drives and makes Ohio's program robust. And so this is telling us we got stuff going on here and it's a recovery. And that's a great thing. So the other stuff we do is the macroinvertebrates. So if anyone cares, we collected bugs, and who collected the most bugs? But let's see, but someone got a leech. Oop, there it is.
Oh, yeah.
Ah! Anyone need one of your humors altered? We're doing some bleeding. Look at how fast those things hang on. So they got that sucker mouth. So in water quality world terms, this is not the coolest thing in the world because they can hang out in all kinds of water from polluted to clean. So if all we ever see is those things that hang in polluted water, it tells us a story. Hey, no, don't go up my sleeve there, buddy. But if we just see a few of these and a mix of other things, anyone want to hold them? It's kind of cool how they swim. You can watch them swim. So this is telling us a story. So if this is the only thing we got here, we'd be kind of sad right now. We go, oh. But then we
Do you
got.
have a plug on your finger?
No, this is not. That's just a piece of wood.
Stressing me out over here.
So this is a giant water bug. Can you tell? It's one of these things that's kind of cool. It's a predatory bug. So if you think of true bugs, leaf hoppers, if anyone knows well, I'm an entomologist, so never mind. So this is a bug. It's in the true bug family, and it's got a harpoon for a mouth part. So, and it can actually hurt and make you bleed. And what they'll do is they'll swim up. Their two front legs can grab stuff. They call them raptoral, like a praying mantis a little bit. And then it'll take this harpoon and ram it into whatever it catches, and it'll suck its body juices out. And these things will get big enough to catch fish and baby like tadpoles and things. So they are really darn aggressive. But again, a different species. Now we're not in the pollution tolerant, we're in the moderate range. But they're here, but what they keep doing is they keep telling us diversity. What we're looking for is diversity. And the other cool things in my bucket, which no one will see here, I also got something called a mayfly. And now we're getting to those things that like clean water. And I got 2 different kinds of mayflies. And I'm just, again, we're just messing around. We didn't really spend a lot of time doing it. So that was a burrowing mayfly. How cool is that? So we got one of those. We got another thing called a caddisfly, which spins nets. So they'll go under a rock, and these guys will spin a net, and anything coming downstream will get stuck in their net, and then they'll crawl around their net and pick food out. This is an adult bug. So these guys, these are adults. All the other bugs that we're talking about in the aquatic insect are babies. So the dominant life form of an aquatic insect is a juvenile. And some of these, why we use them, is they'll live years as juveniles in the stream. And then they go out, and in the case of mayflies, some of the adults have no working mouth parts. So the adult lives 24 to 48 hours and exists for one reason, to make more baby mayflies, because that's where the dominant place in its life cycle is. But those are indicators of good water quality. And we found 2 different kinds here. We found here, this is mine. We found a dragonfly. So this is a baby dragonfly. So the cool thing about dragonflies, did anyone ever see The Matrix? Mm-hmm. So when Neo gets released, that one robot comes down and that thing shoots out from under it and grabs him by the head and unscrews that crap in the back of his head. Mm-hmm. We call that biomimicry, where we, in this case the robots, use Mother Nature, because that's exactly how this works. This has this hinged jaw and it shoots out and it's got 2 little mandibles on it that'll pinch stuff. So that's how they are predators, but a movie copied Mother Nature, and we do that all the time. The other cool thing about dragonflies is they're butt breathers. So they respire by moving their abdomen in and out, and it draws water in and out, so they're butt breathers. Huh? You gotta like that. That's pretty cool. But they can live in lower, slow-moving water. So when we sample here, I got these from the edges because they live in the vegetation on the side of the stream, and then they hang out and do their bug things there. And eventually they'll crawl up and molt and become an adult dragonfly, and then they'll hang out there for a day and let their wings sun out. The smaller ones in the same family are damselflies, so you've probably seen damselflies too. So dragonflies can't fold their wings, and damselflies can't fold their wings.
What else did I get here?
Oh, this one's cool. So you can see this one, can't you? See, if you got close, don't be afraid of the bugs. So this one is called a tapula, which is cool, but it is a baby bug. It's so ugly, it's cute. But if you ever see those things that look like really big mosquitoes that'll sometimes hit on your screen door, crane flies they're called. So this is a baby crane fly, and then the things that look like really gigantic mosquitoes, they don't really have mouth parts that can bite. They're just, so if you squish it, you kill his mommy and daddy. Let's see what else we got. So there's the two. Oh, I got a damselfly. I got a little baby damselfly and some caddisflies. So, yes. So again, what this tells me is I have this nice mix of bugs. We spent more time here. We get more bugs. And our folks, when we do this sampling, we do two things. So these nets, the D-frame kick net. You put it in the stream, and then you do this with all the bugs, and the stream water pushes anything you dislodge down here. And then ultimately you pick it up, and you get all of the bugs out of it. And then we would take them back to the lab, and then you tease it out. So you'll have containers like this full of all kinds of stuff, and you got to tease out all the bugs. And it also makes a good stick or a intern motivating tool. Not that we'd ever hit our interns. But anyway, this way of doing bugs in Ohio, we generate what's called an invertebrate community index. That's the bug grade point. And that was actually developed by Ohio EPA and is used worldwide. But it's another cool thing that's at multiple lines of evidence. So even with this really quick look at the stream, it's alive. There is stuff living here. It's not just one kind of pollution tolerant thing. We have a decent mix. And had we done even more sampling, we'd have got even more kinds of things. So that in our world, when we talk recovery from an impact, that's a good thing. So
You know how people are talking about the chemicals getting into the silt
uh-huh.
and how frogs hang out in the silt, you know, when they in
Sure.
the winter. Is there any way of looking at the amphibians throughout the stream, or do they normally look at them on a yearly basis when they go out to these basins?
So, like, if we go out, we make note of those things, but so frogs, salamanders, they're not the indicators that these things are. So, like, for example, if we would go into, even though we call this a headwater stream because it has less than 20 square miles of drainage. When you go into really teeny streams that are about a mile or less, they're called primary headwater streams. And we do use salamanders in those streams as an indicator of water quality. Because in a stream like this, a fish is the dominant vertebrate predator. When you start getting into these primary streams that dry up and have these pools, salamanders now switch and become the dominant predator. So now you can make predictions based on salamander.
So down here, they're really not an indicator.
No,
At all.
I mean, to me, if I find a salamander here, I'm going, what the hell are you doing here?
right, get upstream.
Because it's like, dude, you're in the wrong place.
Right.
Yeah, so that's the thing when you start seeing stuff like that. So, you know, a leopard frog, well, they'll hop anywhere. You know, wood frogs can go on land, so, you know, so they're just not indicators the same way. They get impacted by things. So if there are chemicals, fungus, hormones, you know, all that stuff impacts them, but it's not the indicator because it's not predictive.
Right.
These are predictive, and that's the difference. The same with reptiles, you know, turtles and things like that. They're not predictive the same way. But diversity is good. So if you see frogs and stuff like that, that's a good sign because they'll eat these things. Or a bass will eat a frog. But this is it. This is kind of cool. So our interns will do this all summer long. And right now we can say, hey, this creek is looking cool. That's a good thing. If we would find fish if we went and sulfur run. We'd find bugs. But again, it's just because it's been so impacted. If I put the same expectation on that creek, it's going to disappoint me. And it's going to fail, but it's not necessarily the creek's fault because we, peoples, did all this stuff to it to make it not be able to work the way it should.
For decades. Decades ago, we did
Decades
stuff.
and decades.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one got downgraded in the 80s
Wow.
because and so the score in this, so downstream in Negley, 60 is a perfect score. This year, that stream got a 57. That is smoking cool. Its expectation is typically around 40. So we know that's really good. What we would see is if we went into like sulfur, we wouldn't have that. Sulfur, I think sulfur was in the 30s, which is still cool. There's still fish and life in there. It's not fair to put those expectations. So Leslie Run, actually, in that world, is exceeding our expectations. But in the 80s, this score was a 16, and 12 is as bottom as you can get.
Sulfur was worse than that.
Yeah.
You know, just as an aside, it'd be interesting to have those same scoring of the Cuyahoga River in 1920 and then comparing it to 1950s fire in the Cuyahoga River. Remember when the Cuyahoga River caught fire?
My birthday. I didn't do it. No one did it to celebrate my birthday.
And then I'd be interested to see how long it
Gender
took for it
reveal
to
back in the
recover.
day.
Yeah. It's a boy. So I did that. So actually, when I was at Case doing school stuff, I did GIS, and I went back and got old things and graded the Cuyahoga from the 50s to, well, back when I was in grad school, it was probably in the late 80s. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's really neat. And this stream in the Cuyahoga, we have stuff going back to the 70s. That's when we first started doing this biology stuff. And you can see those flips when that happened. The Cuyahoga, just because of its notoriety, gets sampled a lot more. Mm-hmm. But you could tell right when those changes happen, and they go back to the Clean Water Act. And there's all this thing when those, like this plant, like others, didn't have to treat to higher levels of ammonia until the late 80s. Mm. But when that started happening, immediately, when the plants had to do that, you could tell right away. Mm-hmm. And it's just that change is that quick. Mm-hmm. And then the bugs and the fish lag behind, but they respond. So here, there was nothing here in the 80s. As everything started improving, the stream responds. You want me to get that for you?
A lot of resiliency.
Mother Nature is all about resilience. As long as we stop kicking her in the teeth, she will be somewhat forgiving. Yeah, there's a cool, if you're ever really into something and you want a boring read, this guy named C.S. Howling wrote this cool, really long paper called Resiliency in Natural Systems. Mm-hmm. And it's all about that. It talks about all that stuff. It was kind of cool.
Where was that published?
let's see, it was a grad school, probably 1986, 87.
In like Nature? Or?
Canadian Journal of Aquatic Sciences, I think, something like that. But it was one of those review paper things. It was just like 60 pages long, and our professor made us read it. At first, we saw how thick it was. We're like, yeah. But it was cool.
What is one of the most intolerant fish and intolerant bugs, as far as like intolerant to pollution, that you would expect to find here at the site?
So,
beautiful, clean, great.
So here in the buggy world, stoneflies are the bomb. So they're the coolest thing. So I would at some point expect to see stoneflies here. And we may already, when they did their, when the bug professionals did their thing, we may find that there were stoneflies here. So we would expect that. These mayflies are really cool. So we're in that upper tier of just some really light things that we saw here. When it comes to the fish, the cool fish are the darters. And the cool darter in a small stream like this would be something called the banded darter. And at some point, well, we know it's down in Bull Creek in the bottom parts. So, yeah. Now, habitat changes, so that's where your structure, if you look through here, no self-respecting darter is going to be stuck in a pool, because that's just not where they hang. And then up there, it's still kind of shallow, because this is still a stream that, it was dried up in the summer. Where when you get further down past that park at the pull-off, that's when all that groundwater keeps coming in and that stream is sustaining. So that's where so not having them here is not necessarily a slight to the water quality. It's just physically, it's going to dry up and they're just not going to hang out here. And then pools that remain, they're not going to hang out here because they're too cool for the pool. But that and these, like this, having a striped shiner here is cool. And then there's another one that, when it was, before it got colder and they do their fish things, I saw, you can see rosy face shiner, which is another cool shiner here. Looks like an emerald shiner if you fish up on Lake Erie, except it's got a pointier nose. And that's another one of those intolerant fish that we know is here. That's kind of cool for little fish. Nothing big, because it's just a small stream. But as you get down in Bull Creek, you get some really nice hog sucker is a really cool fish, a big old thing. It's got stripes on it. I think it's pretty. This is your moment to ask questions. Or go in the stream and test out the generator. So this thing makes DC current. So if anyone, like I've kept fish tanks and fish light falls in and as soon as your dumbass sticks his hand in there, well, a fish never sees that because they're not grounded. There's no connection. So if we did AC current here, the fish would never know. Underneath that wooden little lid we have is a converter from the AC generator to direct current. And that actually sends out packets of electricity, and you don't need to be grounded. It's like tetany. So the fish will immediately cramp up, and then they're actually drawn, you saw, they were drawn to the nets when you were fishing. And then you net them out and they get caught. So they're stunned temporarily unless you really lay on the juice. And like when we get,
fish fry.
and babies, they have so much water in their bodies, you can see little fry swimming around and they don't even care. Or a big bodied fish like a trout that has very dense muscles, or like a muskellunge we've done before. They're so densely muscled, we'll stop right away because it's like shocking us. And we'll take them out and revive them and then let them go because otherwise you'd kill them.
How do you revive them?
Mouth the fish.
Really?
No. You ever seen the teeth on a pike?
I mean, I don't know. You said revive them, and that's the first thing I think of. I'm like, how do you revive
You
them?
move them back into
Okay.
and then when they start splashing around and want to swim away, you know they're good.
Okay.
And then you'll get that little splash of water in your face.
I would have thought that too. I don't know. I've never had to revive a
Here,
fish.
you want to practice mouth? No, but it's just the bigger ones that have denser body flesh that tend to get impacted. And like it can kill you. If this would go around, you could get killed. So as fun as it is, there's an end point that might not be fun.
So when you like sample the fish and stuff, and you said you stop when you see the big fish, you don't really count the. You don't really.
Oh
count
no! We count them. Oh.
Do you catch them, or you just
Oh
look
hell
at them
yeah!
and say,
No,
"Oh, there's one"?
if we get if we're in a bigger stream and like I've got a muskellunge, we will stop and measure it and weigh it, and then let it go on the other side of where we're shocking, and then move on. So we have a stopwatch. That's the time we stop our stopwatch. We do the things that we need to measure and document that fish, and then we continue on.
But you can't shock them
Well, you can shock them.
You still have to revive them.
every time. That's a
No,
lot
they
of
don't all
reviving.
need reviving.
No,
Very small
it's
fish.
just
I would
these
say
guys. Look at
like
they.
3% of them need a little help once you put them back in the water.
It's just the
Most of
big
them
ones.
are
I'm just
shocked.
imagining you guys catch like 100 giant
We
fish,
do.
and then you gotta.
We
No, no.
No, we put them in the live well that's right down there in the creek. And by the time it's time to start counting them and measuring them and weighing them, they've already revived. And they're usually
Yeah,
ready
it's
to
just
go.
if we're on a boat and doing a big site, and we don't want to hurt, to kill a 44-inch tiger muskie would have been really sad, and I couldn't have lived with myself.
And they take up too much oxygen out of the live well.
Well,
so
they'll
we
eat
don't want
everything. Hell, those things you put them in there, they're eating stuff in the live well. We've had to pull fish out of there, and that's eating IBI points. So yeah, they'll.
different fish will shock differently too. So like trout might be more sensitive, or some of them you can use different currents to actually get the fish based on the percentage of fat that they have and what kind of muscle structure they have. So they all react a little bit different, but the goal is that we collect all of them and put them in the live well until we can count them, except for the extreme giant ones that are too big. Or if you see one that's stressing, you might stop right away because you want to save it, let it go, and then continue on. with
Except for
sampling.
carp.
Yeah, carp are different.
They're kind of on their own. Or we've gotten the big head carp or the grass carp, And we just cut their heads off and put the head in a bucket to document that we got it and keep it as a voucher. Because they're not supposed to be here anyway. But yeah, we'll occasionally take vouchers. So if it's something that we're like for these sites, the consultants, every fish they got at every site, there's a photo voucher. And we'll do specimen vouchers too. And anything that the Ohio EPA gets or under a collection permit, anything that's preserved, that's a state listed species, has to go to Ohio State Museum. That's part of a collection permit that all of us get to do this. So there you have it. Fishing is fun. And once you've used electricity to fish, I'm sorry, hook and line is just my kids, I used
You
to
have ruined them for life now? Yeah. No, no. They're so young.
My kids love fishing, and I only did it for them because once you light up a stream, it's like it loses some of the magic of sitting there. Anyway, questions? This is your moment. Again, your moments are waning. Until the next time.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks.
If you signed in today and we don't already have your email, if you put your email on there, we can kind of send you some other information. We can send out that fact sheet that Ohio EPA
Thanks for
put out so
helping.
that everybody has easy access.
Getting dark.
Throw that into the email and let you guys see that, and then maybe that article that Bill.
Oh
was
no,
talking
but
about.
I mean I know about it, but I don't know